My name is Patrick Ahearn, and I'm an architect, and I'm also a member of the ICAA. And today we're going to talk about Avenue in Boston and on the architecture that is so well celebrated by the community as a whole. We're at the gateway to the Commonwealth Avenue Mall, which is an attendant piece of the Boston Common and the Boston Garden. The original layout was designed by Frederick Law Olmsted and affectionately known as the Emerald Necklace. So the necklace goes from the Boston Common to the Boston Garden and down Commonwealth Avenue all the way to the Fenway District that really celebrates some of the best architecture and sense of place that Boston is so loved and so well known for. And the wonderful townhouses and mansions that were built from the early 1860s onward traverses a whole variety of architectural forms and styles. And the streets were laid out alphabetically. So we start off with Arlington Street, which is right here, and we go to Arlington, Berkeley, Clarendon, Dartmouth, Exeter, Fairfield, Gloucester, and then we hit Mass Ave. So I think it's an interesting journey in architectural style, but most importantly, in the streetscape and the character and scale that really established Back Bay as the premier residential district for Boston in its inception, and today has really come back again to celebrate the best of urban living in a wonderful walkable city that we all love, Boston. One of the interesting elements of architectural life in the Back Bay is the variety of architecture that you find on these facades. Many of the lots vary in width from as narrow as about 22 or 23 feet up to about 30 feet. And I think what we have here is a very good example of limestone facade, additional brownstone facade painted a limestone color, and a brownstone narrow lot building, and then another stone-like facade building. And then we step away to a brick veneered building, quite a lot of detail in terms of stone in with the brick itself. And if you notice up on the roof, there's a variety of height and roof shapes. So as we move Back Bay and move through Commonwealth Avenue, you'll continually see a variety of architecture. One of my favorite buildings in this first block in the Back Bay on Commonwealth Avenue is this particular project that was done 20-some years before. And what's really unique about it is there's an underground parking garage underneath the grass. And they had to preserve the tree, and what they did was they created another entrance, this wonderful little folly thing that brings you into a common lobby, but also connects you to the garage below. But what's most exciting about this wonderful restoration, it really preserved this open space and green space for the public to enjoy, but at the same time allowed for the parking requirement for the people who live here today. So this was terrific. On the other side of the street is another interesting building known as Haddon Hall. And for many years, this was an office building. And it's now in the process again, but it used to be 75 feet tall, and this clearly exceeds all of that. So the views and vistas of those units up above, out to the Charles River, out to the south. So we have a very good example of an original apartment building that bookends the corner at Clarendon and Commonwealth Avenue that offered another housing opportunity for people to live in the Back Bay as opposed to just a purely single-family townhouse. At one time, there was 2 other townhouses that were removed, and that in the 70s and 80s, there was an opportunity for the city to create a Back Bay playground for the younger members of the community. And it's really a very thriving and curated playground that the neighborhood association takes care of. So urban living really is not just for adults, but this idea that whole families can be raised here in the cityscape in a way that's rich and really enjoyable. So one of the first churches built in the Back Bay in 1871 was the First Baptist Church, designed by H.H. Richardson. And it really takes on the Italianate notion of a tower, which is in restoration as we see it right now. But it also really is an important iconic building in the corner of Clarendon and Commonwealth Avenue that really became a gathering point for members of the community and people living in the Back Bay. This concludes part 1 of our journey down Commonwealth Avenue, and we're leaving off right now at Dartmouth Street and looking forward to continuing our tour as we move further into the Back Bay and really look at the architecture of the next generations of development within this wonderful urban community.